Hey everyone, Shane here with etrailer.com. Today I have a 2021 Ford F53 chassis. I'm going to walk through how to install Timbrens rear suspension enhancement system. Now, what are some of the reasons we want to increase our suspension or upgrade our suspension? If you've ever been in a motorhome, they're tall, you get a crosswind vehicle passing you, you get a lot of body roll. Adding suspension enhancement on top of putting a rear sway bar, front sway bar, and steering stabilizer on, suspension enhancement is going to help support your suspension or make your ride a little bit more comfortable when you're going down the road. Maybe you're making sharp turns or you have to make a quick maneuver. It's not going to allow your vehicle to lean as much. We're not going to be white knuckling the steering wheel. We're going to not be as worn out when we get to where we're going. We'll be able to park our vehicle, set it up, and be able to enjoy ourselves. Now there's a few different types of suspension enhancement. The ones we're installing on this one today are the Timbrens. They're hollow rubber. They're going to replace your factory jounce bumpers, which are foam. You also have sumo springs. Sumo springs are a foam, but they're a lot thicker foam. They're a lot bigger than your factory ones. They're going to basically work the same way as the Timbrens. If I was going to pick between the two, I'd probably lean more towards the sumo springs over the Timbrens. I think they're going to give you a little bit more ride comfort than the Timbrens because the Timbrens are rubber. Then you also have airbags. Now, I tend to shy away from the airbags because it could tend to lead to problems later on. Your airbags could leak. You constantly have to monitor the air. And if you have a bag that leaks or air pressure that leaks, you have to get back under there and figure it out. With the Timbrens or the sumo springs, you put them on and you don't have to do anything else. They're basically maintenance free. Now that we've talked a little bit about the purpose of them out here, let's go ahead and get the vehicle inside, get it up in the air so you can see what they look like when they're installed. This is what our new bump stops are going to look like when they're installed. These are going to be a hollow ion rubber. And if we compare them to our factory jounce bumpers, our factory ones are going to be made out of a foam, so they're not going to give us as much support as we're looking for. Having this rubber, it's going to give us a lot more support. It's going to help us with a lot of road shock, so we're not going to feel as much inside the cab of the vehicle. And they're going to get stiffer as they compress. They're going to work independently from each other. So if you have one side that, you hit a pothole or something like that, or a bump on one side, and it hits that bump stop there, it's going to allow that bump stop to activate and support the weight. These are going to give you 8,600 pounds worth of weight capacity. Keep in mind that does not increase your weight carrying capacity of the vehicle. These are also going to help reduce body roll. So if you're turning a corner or you have to swerve real quick to get out of the way of something, this is going to help absorb that when this actually makes contact with the axle itself. Again, it's going to absorb all that a lot quicker than your factory foam one would. It's going to come with all the necessary hardware to get them installed, and it's not going to require any drilling or welding. Now that we've gone over some of the features, we'll walk you through how to get it installed. To start your installation, we want to use the jacks and raise our vehicle up to where our axle is hanging freely. We're going to find this yellow cone, which is our factory jounce bumper. We're going to file it on the outside up to the outside of the frame rail. We're going to have two bolts that are holding it in place. We're going to take a 1/2-inch wrench or socket on the outside, 5/8 socket on the inside. If you want to make it easier, get a second person that can come in from the wheel well with a wrench and hold it here, and then you can take off the inside. And then you can put the new one up, they can slide the bolts in, and you can put it all together. I'm going to do it by myself to show that it's fairly simple to do. As you notice, I tried using a shallow socket. The bolt actually comes through there too much, so use a deep well on the inside. We're going to go ahead and remove this hardware. We're not going to be reinstalling it, we're going to be reinstalling new hardware. Take our old jounce bumper off. Now we're going to put our new spring assembly together. You're going to need this bolt, this bracket, your spring, and this plate. I'm going to show you a trick. This bolt has to feed through this bracket to the inside of here. Then you got to put a nut down inside of there and tighten it down. Take your socket. We're going to use a 3/4 inch socket. Put a piece of paper towel over it. Take your large nut, push it into place, and as you put that down in there, it'll keep that nut from falling off and you can thread it onto your bolt. We're going to take the bolt, slide it into the plate like that. Take this plate, slide it on, and then there is a washer in there that is loose. So you want to make sure when you pass the bolt up through it, you get through the washer as well. We're going to take the nut, I'll thread it into place like that. And we're going to take 2 socket wrenches. You're going to need a 5/16 Allen wrench. And then of course, your other socket. And then we can tighten these 2 together. Now this is where it's going to be easier if you have 2 people. You're going to take one of these bolts that comes in the kit. You're going to put a flat washer on it. This plate is going to slide up on the outside of the frame rail. The 2 holes, you're going to line it up with 2 of the holes on here. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to decide if it's the front 2, which is going to be, since this is the outside, we're doing the driver's side, these 2 holes here, or it's going to be these 2. Whichever 2 you use, you want to make sure you're as close to being centered over the axle as possible. So now we'll get our bracket put in place. I'm going to see if I can do it by myself. If not, I'll grab somebody to give me a hand and hold it in place while I put the nuts on the inside. So I do want to mention, up on the inside of the frame rail, when you take your factory jounce bumper off, there's a plate up here. You want to make sure that that stays in place or goes back in place if it happens to move. So what it looks like is if I line these 2, the very back one, and then the third one forward up, that's going to be most centered on the axle. So those are the 2 I'm going to use. So now I got to get this held up in place while I slide a bolt in. I'll go ahead and get one of the nuts put on. That'll hold it up there, and then we can install our second one. Once you get them both in, we'll come back and we'll tighten them down. 9/16 socket, 9/16 wrench. Just like that. Once you're done with one side, you're going to repeat the process on the other. So once you get one side done, repeat the process on the other, and you're ready to go. It's going to do it for a look at in installation on the Timbren rear suspension enhancement on a 2021 Ford F53 chassis.